Hey everyone, I'm Chris DT Gordon. Thanks for meeting me back here at Scar Bearers. It's great to have you here. I'm here with my new friend Kristian, and I'm sorry, Kristian, your last name is Mäenpää?
Yeah, Mäenpää.
Mäenpää, excellent. And you are calling me from Finland today, correct?
Yeah, Turku, Finland.
Excellent. All right, we happen to have a couple things in common. First of all, we've studied martial arts in the past, and I studied Taekwondo, and I still do. What did you study?
Karate.
Okay, excellent. And what was the highest belt you attained?
I only attained a yellow belt myself,
Okay,
but
okay,
I
and then
was still quite fanatical in studying my martial artist background ended with necktising fasciitis.
mm, and that's something else
I
we
completed
share.
my yellow belt degree shortly before I had NF.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, that's something we both share is also being survivors in NF. How did yours come about?
I had a small wound in my left foot toe, and um, I had the bacteria go into my bloodstream, and
Mm.
um, I just couldn't walk. And my fiance called an ambulance, and they couldn't find anything wrong with me, and they made me crawl back home up
Oh,
the
Jesus.
stairs. And then the NF went so bad that um, I just couldn't leave my bed anymore, and my fiance called an ambulance for the second time. And then they brought me into ER and diagnosed me. I had to wait for around 5 or 6 hours before they could figure out what was wrong with me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know that when I went to the hospital, uh, I spent the first number of hours in a gurney while people were trying to figure out what I had as well. And so, yeah, NF is something that usually doesn't pop up at the hospital. Sometimes, people who first see you don't understand what it is. And so, when they finally
Yeah.
realized what it was, what were the next steps?
Well, I fell into a coma and I just awoke like 2 weeks after that, and they told me what disease I have, and I just woke up in the ICU, and I had 41 degrees Celsius fever still,
Oof.
and I had like in the coma I had 2 weeks worth of nightmares that I couldn't wake up from, and I was delirious when I woke up, and I thought the nurses were trying to kill me.
Oh, geez. And
And
yeah, that could be a little
yeah,
scary.
yeah, it was one of the scariest moments of my whole life.
Yeah, and just for perspective for our listeners in the United States, 41 degrees Celsius is around 105, 106 degrees Fahrenheit. And so that's an extremely high fever. And so once you had awakened and you realized that, uh, you were with the situation you were in after you realized that the nurses weren't trying to kill you, what happened then? How long were you in the hospital for?
I was in the hospital. I spent 3 weeks in ICU, 3 weeks in trauma unit, and I spent a total of 3 months in hospital, and I couldn't walk. And when my fiance called the doctor at first, he said that there's a 50% chance of me dying from the disease,
Mm.
and then there's a 50% chance of my whole left leg getting amputated. But luckily, neither of those happened.
That's excellent. That's yeah, that's fantastic. And so what kind of, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of residual effects are there on your left leg?
Well, all of the places with the skin grafts are nearly almost senseless, and my left leg and my whole endurance and stamina are weakened.
Mm-hmm.
So that, for example, walking for 1 mile is a huge uh, struggle for me. I'm still struggling with the whole scenario where I was in the ICU and couldn't open a Coca-Cola bottle on my own
Mm.
because I was so weak. I'm still weak, but I'm fighting and surviving and trying to get back to the state I was before I had the disease.
Yeah, it's amazing and scary how differently NF affects each person. And
Yeah,
I just am proud of you for keeping at it. And I know it's been a hard road for you, Kristian, but I really am proud of how hard you've been working so far. And you've used not karate, but a different kind of body movement form to help you with your recovery. Can you talk a little about that?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, so you're using, I believe it's a kind of yoga called Kundalini. Did I pronounce that
Yeah,
correctly? Okay. And
um, it's about breathing pranayama, and it's about physical postures and physical activity, and it's about discovering Kundalini and the energy centers of the body. So the Kundalini yoga class that I'm doing is about moving forward and putting into past the struggle and really reawakening myself into being in this mind and body and the union of the mind and body so that there is no difference between my actions and my thoughts, that they are one. So the time I've been practicing yoga has been about uh, discovering my body again. It's got all of these postures and all of these muscles and all of this uh, physical endurance struggle.
that's yeah, it's a struggle, definitely. Trying to work back from where you've come in the hospital. Now, just
Yeah,
and I apologize, I didn't ask this before, but you contracted NF about 6 years ago, correct?
yeah, six
Okay.
years ago.
Yes, and so you've been practicing this yoga ever since. Have you been doing it ever since, or is it something you picked up recently?
Recently,
Okay. All right. And how long, like how many times a week do you practice this, practice yoga?
for a few months only, but it's been a huge change for me because I get to do practice that I can do on my own, and I don't need to leave my home at all. I can just do the asana, the postures, which I have uh, how do you say that in English? Well, I remember them. I have put them into memory.
Okay.
And I have also discovered that muscles have memory too,
Yes.
and not just my mind. And I just do the same things every morning. I wake up at around 5 a.m. when the sun rises and do yoga and really set my plans for today. Uh, After I had NF, I drank for 5 years straight
Mm.
with only short breaks in between. I wanted to escape my body and escape my wounds and escape the suffering that I had into drinking alcohol, excessive amounts of alcohol.
Mm.
Like Finnish people have in their genetics alcoholism. My father was an alcoholic and my uncle was an alcoholic, for example. But something just happened to me. I think it was my uh, self ahead of the self, my sort of two wheel that uh, I don't need to drink anymore. And I stopped drinking about 1 year ago. And after that, it's all been about how my point of view from having suffered NF has changed my perspective from being a victim of NF into becoming a fighter and a survivor.
That is, yeah, that's such a huge mind shift. And once you make that mind shift, no matter if you are a survivor of NF or another disease or circumstance, making that shift from a victim to a survivor is such a huge change, not mentally, but also, it also affects your body because, those positive thoughts kind of, start, working within your body itself. And so I applaud you for overcoming, that alcoholism and working through that. Now before we hit record here, you also told me that you were doing something very interesting with, I'm sorry, was it writing, or you're writing a paper on old video games?
Oh yeah, I'm running my thesis. It's called the scientific word for that is oral history. And I study how people remember old video games and how they changed their childhood play into video games. And I study old computers and yeah, that's basically it in a really short sentence. But there's this university innovation unit that I hope to be employed in after I finish my thesis.
Excellent. Now,
So my major subject in university is folklore, but I've also studied law and business and leadership and management and philosophy and religion and history. And we in Finland we have this thing called academic freedom that you can just study what you want and there are no deadlines or anything.
oh wow, that's, for someone who is trying to find their way, either in the world or in academics, that's something great to have, is that academic freedom. And so now, what particular games are you focusing on for this thesis?
anything that people can remember. I'm studying what games people can remember
Oh, okay. And so,
and how it was like this phenomenon that you. I remember as a kid I had a computer called Commodore 64, and
mhm.
they used tapes for the games, and you put the tape into the tape machine and press play, and you had to wait for like 10 or 15 minutes with loading music and graphics, and it wasn't that instant. It was like this uh, really long uh, process of getting into playing, and of course the games were so hard that you really had to struggle to get through to the end of the game
Mhm.
eventually. But
Yeah, it's they're not like the games of today where you could just click them on and to hit play and they start almost instantaneously.
oh
And
yeah, I remember. I was born in 1980, and I still remember the time when you had to use phone lines to connect to the internet and modems,
mhm.
and there was no instant access. Everything was really slow and sluggish. I first connected to the internet in 1995 back in the north of Finland, where I'm from, and
Mhm.
I still remember the time when I went to a chat room, and I was 15 back then, and you had all these people from all of these different countries around the world, and it was such an enlightening experience that I still remember it very well today. And I just went into Czech Republic and Poland despite of the COVID pandemic, and I lost my phone on the second day of my travels. I was traveling for 2 weeks, and it was such a challenge to travel without the phone and the internet and stuff like that. I just got back home yesterday, and
Mm.
I'm tired, but I'm happy. Mm.
Yeah, travel does take it out of you, definitely.
Yeah.
So, um, really quick, what was your favorite game growing up?
Mm. I'm not sure. Maybe Tetris.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's one of those games where it's very simple to start, but mastering it takes a long time.
Yeah, I know.
So, well, so going forward, Kristian, I know you're working on your thesis, and I know you are practicing yoga. What are some goals you'd like to? And I said you. I'm sorry, I can't exactly remember. You said you wanted to get back into university after you complete your thesis.
Oh, yeah. And I also have the goal. I studied nursing for 1 year, but it was such a physical struggle to get through the mandatory practices you had to do in hospitals. And it's such a physical job that I hope that I can get back to shape and uh, apart from the academia, become a certified nurse and help people. When I was in the hospital um, myself, I had really great nurses, and it was such a great experience to have people who really care for you and do really small things to you that make you feel really happy. I want to be able to, in my life, pursue that. I make other people happy and make them feel secure and well, and that I care about other people. that's what made me go into nursing, but I can't do that right now. For example, I can't do CPR effectively.
Mm.
My knees are so ruined on my legs.
Yeah, it's amazing, you know, what the difference, you know, nurses make, not only, you know, by doing their jobs, but, you know, but also just their demeanor and their bedside manner. I remember I also had some fantastic nurses that really
Oh yeah.
impacted my healing beyond, you know, giving me medicine and checking my pick line and all that other stuff. And so I'm very thankful that you had great nurses as well. And
I
I,
remember I'm a Coca-Cola addict, and I still remember when I had my first can of Coca-Cola when it was freezing cold,
mm,
liquid, and a nurse came and gave me the can and opened it for me and put a straw in it, and I could get my first Coca-Cola in a long time. It, the experience will stay with me forever.
that's awesome. You know, I remember in my room there was a poster where they had me answer some questions, you know, so people can get to know me. And one of the questions was favorite movie. And I'm not sure if you can see back here, Kristian. I'm a bit of a geek. I love my Ninja Turtles and the Marvel movies, and I have a Star Wars shirt on. But my favorite movie of all time is a movie called Blazing Saddles,
Uh-huh.
and it's a Western comedy. Well, one of the nurses, I had that on the poster. One day, the head nurse came in and she had seen a copy of Blazing Saddles on DVD at a garage sale, and she bought it for me.
Ah.
And you know, the fact that she was thinking of me and gave that to me out of the kindness of her own heart just meant the world to me. It's one of my prized possessions. So, like that memory of Coca-Cola for you, you know, that's always going to stick with me. And
Ah,
that's
okay.
yeah, and
My
that's
favorite
fantastic.
movie of my favorite movie of all time is Ghostbusters.
That's an awesome one as well. That's that is quite the movie to watch either by yourself or with some friends, especially at Halloween.
Oh yeah.
Um, that's very cool. Who's your favorite Ghostbuster?
Peter Venkman, of course,
Okay, yeah, I like Venkman.
or Egon.
Speckler's fun, or Egon's fun too. Yeah. So you know what, Kristian, if someone were to ask you for some advice or for, you know, just a word of encouragement, what would you tell them if they were facing a difficult situation like we had faced?
Well, I like to think like probably lots of American people are adverse to Islam, but in Islam there's this saying called Inshallah, if Allah wants to, translating, everything will work out for the better in the end. And there's also this idea of jihad, which is misunderstood in the West as a political struggle against people of other faith, but in reality, it's about an inner struggle of becoming a better person. So uh, I'm heavily influenced by Islam in my thinking, and I like to think that God willing, things will work out for the best, and they will work out for the best if you struggle to become a better person and do good in the world. So that's my life philosophy in a nutshell.
No, I greatly appreciate that, and I really agree that, you know, we all face struggles in life, and
Yeah,
your mindset in the struggle is what matters most. And if you keep a positive mindset, you keep, you know, positive in your thoughts and your actions, then that will dictate more or less the outcome. And so I agree with you that that is so important to have that positive mindset. So, Kristian, I have one more question for you, and it's the question that my audience loves to hear the answer to. What is your favorite dinosaur?
Brontosaurus.
The old Brontosaurus, and why is that?
Well, it's a huge dinosaur who is vegetarian, so I became a vegetarian myself when I realized that every being in the world has the same life force or kundalini in them, and I don't want to consume that life force. I want to make that life force flourish. So a brontosaur was a vegetarian dinosaur, and yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Very cool. Well, I greatly appreciate your time, Kristian, and I am very proud of you for you know, the struggles you have overcome and the work that you are doing. And I wish you all the best in your thesis and your nursing studies.
thank you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Kristian. As always, I humbly ask you to like this episode, review it, rate it, and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done that yet. Also, please share it with people whom you might think would enjoy it or appreciate it, or both. As always, I ask you to check out my website, chrisdtgordon.com, to see what I have to offer as a professional speaker. You can also check out me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and what's the other one? Oh, yeah, YouTube, at Chris DT Gordon. As always, I thank you so much for joining me today. Remember to pass imperfection and go for greatness.